Somaliland is a self-declared independent state that is internationally recognized as an autonomous region of Somalia. The government of Somaliland regards itself as the successor state to the British Somaliland Protectorate, which became independent on June 26, 1960 as the State of Somaliland, before uniting with the Trust Territory of Somalia on July 1, 1960 to form the Somali Republic. Somaliland is bordered by Ethiopia in the south and west, Djibouti in the northwest, the Gulf of Aden in the north, and the autonomous Puntland region of Somalia to the east. In 1988, the Siad Barre regime committed massacres against the people of Somaliland, which were among the events that led to the Somali Civil War. The war left the economic and military infrastructure severely damaged. After the collapse of the central government in 1991, the local government, led by the Somali National Movement, declared independence from the rest of Somalia on May 18 of the same year. Since then, the territory has been governed by an administration that seeks self-determination as the Republic of Somaliland. The local government maintains informal ties with some foreign governments, who have sent delegations to Hargeisa. Ethiopia also maintains a trade office in the region. However, Somaliland's self-proclaimed independence remains unrecognized by any country or international organization. It is a member of the Unrepresented Nations and Peoples Organization, whose members consist of indigenous peoples, minorities, and unrecognized or occupied territories. History. The earliest human artifacts in the area are the Lasgil cave paintings, dating from before 3000 BC. The region is sometimes thought to be part of the land of Punt. Islam was introduced to the northern Somali littoral early on from the Arabian Peninsula, shortly after the Hira. Various Muslim Somali kingdoms were formed around this period in the area. Centuries later, in the 1500s, the Ottoman Empire occupied Berbera and environs. Muhammad Ali, Pasha of Egypt, subsequently established a foothold in the area between 1821 and 1841. In 1888, after signing successive treaties with the then-ruling Somali sultans such as Muhammad Ali Shah of the Wazangali Sultanate, the British established a protectorate in the region referred to as British Somaliland. The British garrisoned the protectorate from Aden and administered it as part of British India until 1898. British Somaliland was then administered by the Foreign Office until 1905, and afterwards by the Colonial Office. Generally, the British did not have much interest in the resource-barren region. The stated purposes of the establishment of the protectorate were to secure a supply market, check the traffic in slaves, and to exclude the interference of foreign powers. The British principally viewed the protectorate as a source for supplies of meat for their British Indian outpost in Aden through the maintenance of order in the coastal areas and protection of the caravan routes from the interior. Hence, the region's nickname of Aden's butcher's shop. Colonial administration during this period did not extend administrative infrastructure beyond the coast, and contrasted with the more interventionist colonial experience of Italian Somaliland. The British Somaliland Protectorate became briefly independent on June 26, 1960, with the Trust Territory of Somalia following suit 5 days later. On July 1, 1960, the two territories united as planned to form the Somali Republic. A government was formed by Abdullahi Isa, with Aden Abdullah Osman Dara as president and Abdi Rashid Ali Shmark as prime minister. On July 20, 1961 and through a popular referendum, the Somali people ratified a new constitution, which was first drafted in 1960. In 1967, Muhammad Haji Ibrahim Eagle became prime minister, a position to which he was appointed by Shmark. Shmark would be assassinated 2 years later by one of his own bodyguards. His murder was quickly followed by a military coup d'état on October 21, 1969, in which the Somalian army seized power without encountering armed opposition. The putsch was spearheaded by Major General Mohammed Siad Barre, who at the time commanded the army. The new regime would go on to rule Somalia for the next 21 years. By the 1990s, the moral authority of Barre's government had collapsed. Many Somalis had become disillusioned with life under military dictatorship. The government became increasingly totalitarian, and resistance movements, encouraged by Ethiopia, sprang up across the country, eventually leading to the Somali Civil War. Among the militia groups was the aṣ-Ṣūmāl-led Somali National Movement, based in Hargeisa. Although the SNM at its inception had a unionist constitution, it eventually began to pursue independence, looking to secede from the rest of Somalia. Under the leadership of Abdirahman Ahmed Ali II, the local administration declared the northwestern Somali territories independent at a conference held in Bure between 27 April 1991 and 15 May 1991. To then became the newly established Somaliland Polity's first president, but subsequently renounced the separatist platform in 1994 and began instead to publicly seek and advocate reconciliation with the rest of Somalia under a power-sharing federal system of governance. Mohammed Haji Ibrahim Eagle was appointed as his successor in 1993 by the Grand Conference of National Reconciliation in Barama, which met for 4 months, leading to a gradual improvement in security, as well as a consolidation of the new territory. Eagle was reappointed in 1997, and remained in power until his death on May 3, 2002. The vice president, Yahya Khan, who was during the 1980s the highest-ranking National Security Service officer in Berbera in Siad Barre's government, was sworn in as president shortly afterwards. In 2003, Khan became the first elected president of Somaliland. The war in southern Somalia between Islamist insurgents on the one hand, and the federal government of Somalia and its African Union allies on the other, has for the most part not directly affected Somaliland, which, like neighboring Puntland, has remained relatively stable. Politics and government. Under the Federal Constitution of Somalia, Somaliland is officially a federal member state of the Federal Republic of Somalia. It has a hybrid system of governance under the Constitution of Somaliland, combining traditional and Western institutions. In a series of inter-clan conferences, culminating in the Barama Conference in 1993, a cabal system of government was constructed. The constitution separates government into an executive branch, a legislative branch, and a judicial branch, each of which functions independently from the others. The Gulf worked with rebel leaders to set up a new government, and was incorporated into the governance structure, becoming the parliament's House of Elders. The government became in essence a power-sharing coalition of Somaliland's main clans, with seats in the upper and lower houses proportionally allocated to clans according to a predetermined formula, although not all clans are satisfied with their representation. In 2002, after several extensions of this interim government, Somaliland transitioned to multi-party democracy. The election was limited to 3 parties, in an attempt to create ideology-based elections rather than clan-based elections. The executive is led by an elected president, whose government includes a vice president and a council of ministers. The council of ministers, who are responsible for the normal running of government, are nominated by the president and approved by the parliament's House of Representatives. The president must approve bills passed by the parliament before they come into effect. Presidential elections are confirmed by the National Elections Commission. The president can serve a maximum of 2 5-year terms. Legislative power is held by the bicameral parliament. Its upper house is the House of Elders, and the lower house is the House of Representatives. The lower house is chaired by Abdirahman Mohammed Abdullahi. Each house has 82 members. Members of the House of Elders are elected indirectly by local communities for 6-year terms. The House of Elders shares power in passing laws with the House of Representatives, and also has the role of solving internal conflicts, and an exclusive power to extend the terms of the President and representatives under circumstances that make an election impossible. Members of the House of Representatives are directly elected by the people for 5-year terms. The House of Representatives shares voting power with the House of Elders, though it can pass a law that the House of Elders rejects if it votes for the law by a 2/3 majority, and has absolute power in financial matters and confirmation of presidential appointments. However, the Parliament provides weak oversight of the executive branch. The judicial system is divided into district courts, regional appeals courts, and the Supreme Court, which is the highest court and also functions as the constitutional court. As of July 2014, Somaliland has 4 political parties: the United People's Democratic Party, the Peace, Unity, and Development Party, the Justice and Development Party, and Wadani. Under the Somaliland Constitution, a maximum of 4 political parties are allowed, and parties defined by religion or clan are prohibited, though all official parties are closely affiliated with a clan. Foreign relations. Somaliland has political contacts with its neighbors Ethiopia and Djibouti, as well as with Belgium, France, Ghana, Kenya, South Africa, Sweden, and the United Kingdom. On January 17, 2007, the European Union sent a delegation for foreign affairs to discuss future cooperation. The African Union has also sent a foreign minister to discuss the future of international acknowledgement, and on 29 and 30 January 2007, the ministers stated that they would discuss acknowledgement with the organization's member states. In early 2006, the National Assembly of Wales extended an official invitation to the Somaliland government to attend the royal opening of the Synod in Cardiff. The move was seen as an act of recognition by the Welsh Assembly of the breakaway government's legitimacy. The Foreign and Commonwealth Office made no comment on the invitation. Wales is home to a significant Somali expatriate community from Somaliland. In 2007, a delegation led by President Khan was present at the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting in Kampala, Uganda. Although Somaliland has applied to join the Commonwealth under observer status, its application is still pending. On November 27, 2007, Arnami Nates broke of the ELDR, one of 3 main parties in the EU, mailed a letter to the then EU High Representative Javier Solana, and to President Khan of Somaliland, which called upon the EU to recognize Somaliland. In December 2007, the United States government discussed whether to back the shaky transitional government in Mogadishu or to acknowledge and support the less volatile Somaliland secessionists. On September 24, 2010, Johnny Carson, Assistant Secretary of State for African Affairs, stated that the United States would be modifying its strategy in Somalia and would seek deeper engagement with the governments of Somaliland and Puntland while continuing to support the Somali transitional government. Carson said the U.S. would send aid workers and diplomats to Puntland and Somaliland and alluded to the possibility of future development projects. However, Carson emphasized that the U.S. would not extend formal recognition to either region. The then UK Minister for Africa, Henry Bellingham MP, met President Selanio of Somaliland in November 2010 to discuss ways in which to increase the UK's engagement with Somaliland. President Selanio said during his visit to London, "We have been working with the international community and the international community has been engaging with us, giving us assistance and working with us in our democratization and development programs. And we are very happy with the way the international community has been dealing with us, particularly the UK, the US, other European nations and our neighbours who continue to seek recognition." In 2011, Somaliland and the neighbouring Puntland region each entered a security-related Memorandum of Understanding with the Seychelles. Following the framework of an earlier agreement signed between the transitional federal government and the Seychelles, the memorandum is for the transfer of convicted persons to prisons in Puntland and Somaliland. Border disputes. Somaliland continues to claim the entire area of the former British Somaliland. It is currently in control of the western half of the former British Somaliland, with northeastern Morka having declared itself a separate, unrecognised autonomous state within Somalia in July 2007, and the disputed southeastern Sul state had been under the control of neighbouring Puntland from 2003 until 2008. A coalition of Gadawsi intellectuals hailing from the westernmost Ordel province have threatened to secede if Somaliland's independence is recognised. Tensions between Puntland and Somaliland escalated into violence several times between 2002 and 2009. In October 2004, and again in April and October 2007, armed forces of Somaliland and Puntland clashed near the town of Lasanad, the capital of Sul region. In October 2007, Somaliland troops took control of the town. While celebrating Puntland's 11th anniversary on August 2, 2009, Puntland officials vowed to recapture aṣ-Ṣūmāl. While Somaliland claims independent statehood and therefore split up the old Somalia, Puntland works for the re-establishment of a united but federal Somali state. Somaliland forces took control of the town of Laskari in eastern Sonog on July 10, 2008, along with positions 5 kilometers east of the town. The defense forces completed their operations on July 9, 2008 after the Morka and Puntland militia in the area left their positions, but control of the territory was later assumed by Puntland as Morka was incorporated into the autonomous region in January 2009. In the late 2000s, HBMSSC, a local unionist group based in Sonog, was formed with a goal to establish its own regional administration. In 2010, the formation of a new autonomous region within a federal Somalia was also declared in the Awdal province. Referred to as Awdalland or the Awdal state, the local administration does not recognize the Somaliland government's claim to sovereignty or to its territory. Military. The Somaliland Armed Forces are the main military command in Somaliland. Along with the police force and all other internal security forces, they are overseen by Somaliland's Ministry of Defense. The current head of Somaliland's armed forces is the Minister of Defense, Mudane Ahmed Hajadami. The Somaliland Army consists of 12 divisions equipped primarily with light weaponry, though it is equipped with some howitzers and mobile rocket launchers. Its armored vehicles and tanks are mostly of Soviet design, though there are some aging Western vehicles and tanks in its arsenal. The Somaliland Navy, despite a crippling lack of equipment and formal training, has apparently had some success at curbing both piracy and illegal fishing within Somaliland waters. Administrative divisions, regions. 16 new districts, geography. Somaliland is situated in northwestern Somalia. It lies between the 08°00°11°30 parallel north of the equator and between 42°30°49°00 meridian east of Greenwich. It is bordered by Djibouti to the west, Ethiopia to the south, and the Puntland region of Somalia to the east. Somaliland has a 740 km coastline with the majority lying along the Gulf of Aden. The region is slightly larger than England, with an area of 137,600 km². Somaliland's climate is a mixture of wet and dry conditions. The northern part of the region is hilly, and in many places the altitude ranges between 900 and 2,100 meters above sea level. The Awdal, Sale and Marudi GX regions are fertile and mountainous, while Togdir is mostly semi-desert with little fertile greenery around. The Awdal region is also known for its offshore islands, coral reefs and mangroves. A scrub-covered, semi-desert plain referred as the Gubbon lies parallel to the Gulf of Aden littoral. With a width of 12 kilometers in the west to as little as 2 kilometers in the east, the plain is bisected by watercourses that are essentially beds of dry sand except during the rainy seasons. When the rains arrive, the Gubbon's low bushes and grass clumps transform into lush vegetation. This coastal strip is part of the Ethiopian xeric grasslands and shrublands ecoregion. Kalmado is a mountain range in the northern part of the country. Extending from the northwest of Ergevo to several kilometers west of the city of Bosaso, it features Somalia's highest peak, Shimares, which sits at an elevation of about 2,416 meters. The rugged east-west ranges of the Karkar Mountains also lie to the interior of the Gulf of Aden littoral. In the central regions, the northern mountain ranges give way to shallow plateaus and typically dry water courses that are referred to locally as the Ogo. The Ogo's western plateau, in turn, gradually merges into the Horde, an important grazing area for livestock. Economy. The Somaliland shilling, while stable, is not an internationally recognized currency and currently has no official exchange rate. It is regulated by the Bank of Somaliland, the central bank, which was established constitutionally in 1994. Since Somaliland is unrecognized, international aid donors have found it difficult to provide aid. As a result, the government relies mainly upon tax receipts, and remittances from the large Somali diaspora contribute immensely to Somaliland's economy. Remittances come to Somaliland through money transfer companies, the largest of which is aṣ-Ṣūmāl, one of the few Somali money transfer companies to conform to modern money transfer regulations. The World Bank estimates that remittances worth approximately $1 billion reach Somalia annually from émigrés working in the United States, Europe, and the Gulf states. Analysts say that aṣ-Ṣūmāl may handle around two-thirds of that figure, and that as much as half of it reaches Somaliland alone. Since the late 1990s, service provision has significantly improved as a result of limited government provision and contributions from non-governmental organizations, religious groups, the international community and the growing private sector. Local and municipal governments have been developing the provision of key public services, such as water in aṣ-Ṣūmāl and education, electricity and security in Berbera. In 2009, the bank pour la commerciale industrielle Euromar Rouge, based in Djibouti, opened a branch in aṣ-Ṣūmāl, to become the first bank in the country since the collapse in 1990 of the Commercial and Savings Bank of Somalia. Various telecommunications firms also have branches in Somaliland. Among these companies is Golis Telecom Somalia, one of the largest such operators in northern Somalia. Founded in 2002 with the objective of supplying the local market with GSM mobile services, fixed line and internet services, it has an extensive network that covers all of Somalia's major cities and more than 40 districts in both the Somaliland and Puntland regions. Golis also offers among the cheapest international calling rates, at $0.2 less than its nearest competitor. Other telecommunication firms serving the region include Telcom and NationLink. Livestock is the backbone of the Somaliland region's economy. Sheep, camel and cattle are shipped from the Berbera port and sent to Gulf Arab countries, such as Saudi Arabia. Agriculture is generally considered to be a potentially successful industry, especially in the production of cereals and horticulture. Mining also has potential, though simple quarrying represents the extent of current operations, despite the presence of diverse quantities of mineral deposits. Tourism. The rock art at Las Gil, situated on the outskirts of aṣ-Ṣūmāl, are a popular local tourist attraction. Totaling 10 caves, they were discovered by a French archaeological team in 2002, and are believed to date back around 5,000 years. The government and locals keep the cave paintings safe, and only a restricted number of tourists are allowed entry. Other notable sites include the Freedom Arch in aṣ-Ṣūmāl and the War Memorial in the city centre. Natural attractions are very common around the region. The Nesa Hablad are twin hills located on the outskirts of aṣ-Ṣūmāl that Somalis in the region consider to be a majestic natural landmark. The Ministry of Tourism has also encouraged travellers to visit historic towns and cities in Somaliland. The historic town of Sheikh is located near Berbera and is home to old British colonial buildings that have remained untouched for over 40 years. Berbera also houses historic and impressive Ottoman architectural buildings. Another equally famous historic city is Ziyala. Ziyala was once part of the Ottoman Empire, a dependency of Yemen and Egypt and a major trade city during the 19th century. The city has been visited for its old colonial landmarks, offshore mangroves and coral reefs, and its towering cliffs and beach. The nomadic culture of Somaliland has also attracted tourists. Most nomads live in the countryside. Transport. Bus services operate in aṣ-Ṣūmāl, Bure, Gabili, Berbera and Barama. There are also road transportation services between the major towns and adjacent villages operated by different types of vehicles, such as four-wheel drives and light goods vehicles. The most prominent airline serving Somaliland is Darlo Airlines, one of a number of Somali-owned private carriers that emerged after Somali Airlines ceased operations. It flies to Djibouti City, Addis Ababa, Dubai and Jeddah, and offers flights for the Hajj and Umrah pilgrimages via the aṣ-Ṣūmāl International Airport. Other airports in the region include the Berbera Airport and Bure Airport. Demographics, largest cities, languages. Most people in Somaliland speak two of the three official languages, Somali, Arabic and English. Article 6 of the Constitution of 2001 designates the official language of Somaliland to be Somali, Though Arabic is a mandatory subject in school and is used in mosques around the region and English is spoken and taught in schools. English was proclaimed an official language later, outside the constitution. Somali is a member of the Cushitic branch of the Afro-Asiatic language family, and its nearest relatives are the Afar and Oromo languages. Somali is the best documented of the Cushitic languages, with academic studies of it dating from before 1900. Somali dialects are divided into three main groups: Northern, Bani Ada and Mawa. Northern Somali forms the basis for Standard Somali. Bani Ada is spoken on the Banadiya coast from Kadali to south of Merka, including Mogadishu, as well as in the immediate hinterland. The coastal dialects have additional phonemes which do not exist in Standard Somali. Maya is principally spoken by the Digil and Miraval clans in the southern areas of Somalia. Since Somali had long lost its ancient script, a number of writing systems have been used over the years for transcribing the language. Of these, the Somali alphabet is the most widely used, and has been the official writing script in Somalia since the government of former President of Somalia Siad Barre formally introduced it in October 1972. The script was developed by the Somali linguist Shaya Jama Ahmed specifically for the Somali language, and uses all letters of the English-Latin alphabet except P, V and Z. Besides Ahmed's Latin script, other orthographies that have been used for centuries for writing Somali include the long-established Arabic script and Wadawad's writing, in addition to various indigenous writing systems developed in the 20th century. Religion. With few exceptions, Somalis in Somaliland and elsewhere are Muslims, the majority belonging to the Sunni branch of Islam and the Shafi'i school of Islamic jurisprudence. As with southern Somali coastal towns such as Mogadishu and Merka, there is also a presence of Sufism, Islam's mystical dimension. Particularly the Arab Rifa'iyya Tariqa. Though traces of pre-Islamic traditional religion exist in Somaliland, Islam is important to the Somali sense of national identity. Many of the Somali social norms come from their religion. For example, Somali women wear a hijab when they are in public. In addition, Somalis abstain from pork and alcohol, and also try to avoid receiving or paying any form of interest. Muslims generally congregate on Friday afternoons for a sermon and group prayer. Under the Constitution of Somaliland, Islam is the state religion of Somaliland, and no laws may violate the principles of Sharia. The promotion of any religion other than Islam is illegal, and the state promotes Islamic tenets and discourages behavior contrary to Islamic morals. Somaliland has very few Christians. In 1913, during the early part of the colonial era, there were virtually no Christians in the Somali territories, with about 100–200 followers coming from the schools and orphanages of the handful of Catholic missions in the British Somaliland Protectorate. The small number of Christians in the region today mostly come from similar Catholic institutions in Aden, Djibouti, and Berbera. Somaliland falls within the episcopal area of the Horn of Africa as part of Somalia, under the Anglican Diocese of Egypt. However, there are no current congregations in the territory. The Roman Catholic Diocese of the Mogadishu is designated to serve the area as part of Somalia. However, since 1990 there has been no Bishop of the Mogadishu, and the Bishop of Djibouti acts as apostolic administrator. The Adventist mission also indicates that there are no Adventist members. Culture. Clan system. The Somaliland region has a population of about 3.5 million people. The largest clan family in Somaliland are the aṣ-Ṣūmāl, who are Somalia's third largest ethnic Somali clan. The clan groupings of the Somali people are important social units, with clan membership playing a central part in Somali culture and politics. Clans are patrilineal and are often divided into sub-clans, sometimes with many subdivisions. Somali society is traditionally ethnically endogamous. To extend ties of alliance, marriage is often to another ethnic Somali from a different clan. Thus, for example, a recent study observed that in 89 marriages contracted by men of the Dhulbahante clan, 55 were with women of Dhulbahante sub-clans other than those of their husbands. 30 were with women of surrounding clans of other clan families. and 3 were with women of other clans of the Darod clan family. The aṣ-Ṣūmāl constitute the largest Somali clan in most of Somaliland. They are concentrated in the Wad Galbeed and Tojdir regions, alongside the indigenous people of Gabu and their Mews. The disputed eastern and western regions are predominantly inhabited by other clans. Sewell's residents mainly hail from the Djibouti, a subdivision of the Hatti Confederation of Darod sub-clans. The Wazangali, another Hatti Darod sub-clan, constitute the majority of residents in Sanog. The Gadawusi are also well represented in the Awdal region. Cuisine. It is considered polite for one to leave a little bit of food on one's plate after finishing a meal at another's home. This tells the host that one has been given enough food. If one were to clean his or her plate, that would indicate that one is still hungry. Most Somalis do not take this rule so seriously, but it is certainly not impolite to leave a few bits of food on one's plate. Somali breakfast typically includes a flatbread called laho, as well as liver, toast, cereal, and porridge made of millet or cornmeal. Lunch can be a mixture of rice or pasta with meat and sauce. Also consumed during lunchtime is a traditional soup referred to as marak, which is also part of Yemeni cuisine. Marak is made of vegetables, meat and beans and is usually eaten with flatbread or pita bread. Later in the day, a lighter meal is served that includes beans, full medams, mafo, or a salad with more laho injera. Arts, Islam and poetry have been described as the twin pillars of Somali culture. Somali poetry is mainly oral, with both male and female poets. They use things that are common in the Somali language as metaphors. Most Somalis are Sunni Muslims and Islam is vitally important to the Somali sense of national identity. Most Somalis do not belong to a specific mosque or sect and can pray in any mosque they find. Celebrations come in the form of religious festivities, 2 of the most important being Eid al-Adha and Eid al-Fitr, which marks the end of the fasting month. Families get dressed up to visit one another, and money is donated to the poor. Other holidays include June 26 and May 18, which celebrate Somaliland's independence from Britain and Somalia respectively. The latter, however, is not recognized by the international community. In a nomadic culture, where one's possessions are frequently moved, there is little reason for the plastic arts to be highly developed. Somalis embellish and decorate their woven and wooden milk jugs and wooden headrests. Traditional dance is also important, though mainly as a form of courtship among young people. The traditional dance known as the aṣ or Somali in the Somali language is Somaliland's favorite dance. Also, an important form of art in Somaliland is henna painting. The henna plant is widely grown across the region and it was Arab merchants and settlers that first brought the art of henna painting to early Somaliland. During special occasions, a Somali woman's hands and feet are expected to be covered in decorative mehndi. Girls and women usually apply or decorate their hands and feet in henna on joyous celebrations like Eid or weddings. The henna designs vary from very simple to highly intricate. Compared to Pakistani, Indian or Bangladeshi henna designs, Somali designs are more modern and simple. Traditionally, only women apply this body art, as it is considered a feminine custom. Henna is not only applied on the hands and feet but is also used as a dye. Somali men and women alike use henna as a dye to change their hair color. Mostly, elderly men with grey hair apply this procedure because black hair dye is forbidden in Islam. Women are free to apply henna on their hair as most of the time they are wearing a hijab. See also: Outline of Somaliland, Communications in Somaliland, Banknotes of the Somaliland shilling, Coins of the Somaliland shilling, List of states with limited recognition, Federated state, References. Sources and references. This article incorporates text from a publication now in the public domain, a Herbermann, Charles, ed. Somaliland. Catholic Encyclopedia. Robert Appleton Company. A Catholic Encyclopedia, Somaliland, Wales strikes out on its own in its recognition of Somaliland, Hohn, Marcus 5 2009, Mimesis and Mimicry and Dynamics of State and Identity Formation in Northern Somalia, Africa 79/2, ppA 252 €281. Hohn, Marcus 5 2007, Puntland and Somaliland clashing in northern Somalia, who cuts the Gordian knot? Published online on November 7, 2007. http hornofafrica.ssc.org, Bibliography, Bradbury, Mark, Becoming Somaliland, external links.